Ryan, I wanted to shift attention to another team that is kind of opening eyes right now a little bit differently. This was a team that was literally on the doormat of the NBA 2 years ago. The Detroit Pistons are now leading the Eastern Conference with a 17-4 record, eclipsing their win total from 2 years ago within the first 6 weeks of the season. But can you talk to us a little bit about their rebuild and how they've gotten from being one of the worst teams in the NBA just 2 years ago to now being atop the Eastern Conference?
You see the snazzy graphics going across the bottom of our picture there. Producer Wyatt really stepped up his game. I'm glad to see he hasn't let the fame go to his head, for his appearance in segment 3 on this show. But you're right. You're right that we talked about OKC as the gold standard, not only in the Western Conference, but in the NBA, maybe across pro sports. But what Detroit has done is deserved a lot of attention and got a lot of attention. A couple of years ago, the 23-24 season, the Pistons lost 28 consecutive games, 28 games in an 82-game season. That's basically a third of the season. You just lose every night, over a multi-month span. And that set the record for the longest losing streak in a season. Thad, this year, the Pistons, complete opposite end of the spectrum, 17-4. Just to put that in perspective, Detroit's 15th win this year was on November 24th. So it's just before Thanksgiving. That means that they exceeded their season win total from just 2 seasons ago, again, before Thanksgiving, so it's, and the regular season goes until mid-April in the NBA. So that's how quickly they've turned it, how they've gone from historically bad to the class of the Eastern Conference. And they have some young stars. Cade Cunningham, if you're not familiar with him yet, and you're an NBA fan, become familiar with his game. A big playmaker with size, about 6'7", 6'8", does everything on the court. He's going to be an all-star, and I think at some point over the next 5 or 10 years will be a perennial MVP candidate. He's that good of a player. And a franchise got to build around in Detroit. And then the front court, a young big man, Jalen Duren, played 1 year at Memphis in college, has really emerged as a two-way force, a good rebounder, got some size and physicality, especially for a young big man, also some skill. And then Asar Thompson, Thad, one of the Thompson twins, not the 80s band, Hold Me Now, Thompson twins, but a different grouping, Asar and Amen Thompson. Amen's on Houston, a terrific young player, but Asar Thompson, those two guys, as you guys know, you've been around pro athletes your whole career. Some guys just move a little bit differently than the rest. The Thompson twins, Asar and Amen, do that. Their athleticism and size, the way they glide and explode around the court, really, dominant two-way players. And, you see the graphic there with Detroit, kind of well out in front of the pack. They're way ahead of expectations, Dad. If they fell short a couple of years ago when they were historically bad, I don't think even in their most optimistic dreams, they could have said, okay, if we do everything right, 2 years from now, we'll be way ahead of the pack in the Eastern Conference, and we'll have a bunch of young stars on our roster with good role players around them. But that's exactly what the Pistons have at this moment.
It's so epically difficult to do what they're doing right now. And we'll see as the season progresses if they hold this position. But to go from being where they were 2 years ago to where they are today is an extremely aggressive move by their front office. And I know, as you referenced, there's been changes in the coaches. There's been changes in the front office. They're pushing a lot of the right buttons right now. They're starting to gel. Probably all starts with Cade Cunningham having a superstar, but they built a nice complementary group around them. And then, something we've touched upon in past episodes, Ryan, is they may be catching the Eastern Conference at the right time with key injuries to the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers. This may be the right time for them to strike, but that's also part of building a championship organization, is knowing the timing and not making sure you don't miss when those opportunities present themselves.
And I think one of the things that I love to get Tom's take on as well from an NFL perspective that is easy in theory, but really hard in reality, is to be patient and continue to trade present for future in terms of, it's easy to do the opposite of that, right? Trade young players and draft picks for today. Let's try to improve our team today and win the game this week, next week, the following week. It's a lot more difficult to say, okay, let's trade our best players today for future value, young players who haven't fully developed yet, draft picks down the road. But in 2, 3, 4 years, if we draft the right guys and develop the right guys and are still employed by our current team, then we'll reap the benefits of it then. That's really hard to do, but that's what the two teams we've been focusing on, the OKC Thunder and Detroit Pistons, have done, Tom. And it seems like, it's probably not a huge secret, but like across sports, your owner and his patience or lack thereof seems to play into that. Whereas like it seems like some certain organizations in the NFL would be more open to that versus Jerry Jones is like pushing in draft picks for Quinnen Williams or whoever else. Seems like a little more today focused versus what's best for the franchise 3 to 5 years from now.
I was just thinking about this before you brought this up, and just with the Pistons, it's not just the patience as a general manager, but it's the mental toughness to be able to handle the losses. Like you said, trading away present for the future and doing that over and over. But in the NBA and even in baseball, to have lost night after night after night, but still in your mind feel like your process is the right process and it's going to pay off down the road. But that's hard. That would be really hard. I'd have a hard time with that. I mean, you have to do it that way. There's only, especially in those two sports, how you build it, where it's going to may take a couple years. In the NFL, I just think you can get there quicker than that. And we saw right now with the New England Patriots, I think were 3-14 last year. And they flipped it around. The Bears have flipped it around relatively quick. But to have that mentality where, I mean, I remember that the year of the Pistons where they were losing night after night after night. And that's just got to be unbearable for a front office to try and endure that. But, this is how we have to do it. And our process will work in the end. So kudos to them to be able to handle that. Luckily in football, I think, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with our salary cap. There's just a more parity, more level playing field. It's not the haves and have-nots. It seems like in baseball where cash is king. But to have that vision that you're trading the present for the future and then make the right picks. That's the other thing. You have to hit. It's great to have all these number one picks, like what the Jets have right now, but you really got to hit on them with your evaluation part of it. But the 76ers a couple of years ago, the Pistons now, these are pretty cool models to look at as far as how they rebuilt.
And no matter how patient we are, Tom, it takes an owner to be slightly more patient for us to have our patience shine. Otherwise, we'll be shown the door.
True.